Everyone called me Madam Momo because I never stopped eating at parties, until that night changed everything. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. I was Morgan Davis, the kind of woman who lit up every room she walked into. Friends loved me for my energy, my laugh, and yes, my endless appetite at every gathering. Food was my joy, and parties were my playground. People would joke that I ate for two, but I always smiled and kept going, never caring what anyone thought. For me, life was about enjoying the moment, tasting everything, and making memories. That weekend, my closest friends decided to throw a lavish party at Emily and Jason's downtown loft. The kind of party everyone wanted an invite to. The invitations had gone out weeks before, and I was excited, as usual. I knew the night would be filled with music, laughter, and enough food to last a week. I had my favorite dress picked out, something bright and fun that matched my personality. As soon as I arrived, people smiled, waved, and called out greetings. I moved from table to table, sampling hors d'oeuvres, laughing with old friends, and exchanging stories. Everything felt perfect. But beneath the glitter and music, I started to notice tiny things that didn't sit right. A few glances lingered too long, whispers paused when I approached, smiles that didn't reach the eyes. I brushed it off at first. People are always talking, I thought. Then I saw her. Vanessa Reed. She had been a friend for years, or so I thought. Her smile seemed sweet, but her eyes held something else, envy, maybe even something sharper. She waved, but the way she looked at me made my stomach twist. I tried to ignore it, pouring myself another glass of wine, telling myself it was nothing. Still, a small seed of doubt had been planted. The party went on, music thumping, glasses clinking, everyone enjoying themselves. I laughed, I danced a little, and of course, I ate. But every time I passed Vanessa, I felt a tension in the air I couldn't explain. Her friends hung close, whispering, glancing at me as if they were waiting for something to happen. My carefree joy started to feel heavier, like I was walking on a thin line. I told myself to stay focused on the good, the laughter, the music, the food. But even as I smiled and mingled, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. That night was supposed to be another fun evening, another chance to enjoy life. Instead, it was the beginning of a story I never expected, one where betrayal, envy, and careful planning would soon collide with my world. I left the party feeling the first real twinge of unease I had ever felt in my social life. It wasn't just about food or fun anymore. Something was coming, and it would change the way everyone saw me, including me. But at the time, I didn't know just how far it would go. Vanessa Reed had always been around, always smiling, always laughing, but there was something in her I never quite understood. She acted like my friend, but there was an edge to her, a sharpness hidden beneath her polite words. At first, I didn't notice it. I was too busy enjoying life, too busy laughing, eating, and moving from one party to the next. But slowly, little things started to add up. At parties, she would compliment me in a way that felt more like a jab than praise. "Morgan, you always know how to make everyone notice you," she would say, her smile perfect, but her eyes cold. Or she would offer advice that seemed helpful at first but later revealed itself as subtle sabotage. I never realized it immediately. I thought she cared, that she just wanted to help. But it wasn't care. It was envy. Vanessa loved attention too, but unlike me, she couldn't carry it effortlessly. She needed to bring others down to feel higher. She would whisper behind my back, plant little doubts in other people's minds about me. Sometimes, I would catch a glimpse of her talking to someone and then see them look at me strangely. I told myself not to overthink it. I didn't want to imagine enemies where there were none. At the same parties where I laughed and danced, Vanessa was observing. Every gesture I made, every word I said, every laugh I shared with others, she catalogued it, stored it, and twisted it for her own plans. She made sure to subtly isolate me from people who could have warned me, slowly cutting off my safety net. But I was too busy being Morgan, too busy living, too busy enjoying. I didn't see the trap being set right in front of me. Even in casual conversations, she had a way of slipping in doubts. "Are you sure that's a good idea, Morgan?" she'd ask, sounding concerned, but the tone was sharp, almost accusing. People would notice and sometimes hesitate, questioning me when I hadn't done anything wrong. She was quiet, careful, intelligent in the way she undermined me. It was not obvious, not loud, but it worked. Vanessa wasn't reckless. She didn't attack openly. She was patient. She watched the way I moved through the room, who smiled at me, who laughed with me, and who envied me too. She marked every small success I had, every compliment I received, and waited for the perfect moment to turn it into my downfall. I didn't see it, because I didn't want to. I trusted people too easily, assumed the best in everyone. Little by little, the tension built around me. I didn't notice it yet, but the foundation of envy and betrayal was being laid quietly. Vanessa was patient, watching, calculating. And the night I least expected, her plan would begin to unfold, catching me completely off guard. I was still smiling, still dancing, still eating, unaware that someone close to me wanted to see me fall. The charity event was supposed to be one of the highlights of the season. It was held at a beautiful downtown hall, with crystal chandeliers, live music, and tables stacked with exquisite food. I arrived feeling confident, smiling at familiar faces, ready to enjoy another night surrounded by friends and laughter. But I didn't know Vanessa had been planning this for weeks. It started innocently. Vanessa approached me during a quiet moment, leaning in as if she wanted to share something private. "Morgan, can I tell you something?" she whispered, her voice soft and careful. I nodded, thinking it was a friendly chat. She leaned closer and mentioned something about a conversation she claimed had happened earlier that week, something trivial that I had said in passing. I didn't see anything wrong, I responded politely, trusting her completely. What happened next shocked me. Moments later, people around us started laughing. I looked up to see Vanessa telling the story I had shared, but she twisted my words, making them sound ridiculous and inappropriate. The crowd's laughter grew, and I froze. My face burned with embarrassment. I tried to explain, tried to clarify, but the more I spoke, the funnier my words seemed to others. Every eye was on me, and for the first time I felt completely exposed, like a joke in someone else's story. I wanted to disappear. My confidence, which had always been my armor, felt shattered. I moved to a quieter corner, heart racing, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Vanessa approached later, smiling innocently, pretending to comfort me. "I'm sorry, Morgan. I didn't mean for everyone to laugh," she said, her tone sweet, but the edge in her eyes gave her away. I realized in that moment that this wasn't a mistake or carelessness. This was deliberate. As I replayed the scene in my head, I started noticing more details I had missed before, the way she had nudged certain people closer, the knowing glances she exchanged with others, the tiny smirk when I stumbled over my words. It wasn't just envy, it was revenge. Something I had done, or perhaps something she imagined I had done, had fueled this elaborate plan to humiliate me publicly. I left the event early, trying to hold back tears. The music, the laughter, and the chatter that once made me feel alive now felt suffocating. For the first time, I questioned my judgment, my trust, and even my place among people I thought were friends. That night, I learned how carefully someone could orchestrate a betrayal, how easily confidence could be broken, and how sharp envy could be when it turns into calculated revenge. Vanessa had won this round. I felt the sting of humiliation in every step I took home. But deep down, a small spark ignited. I knew I couldn't let this end here. I didn't yet know how, but I promised myself I would find a way to reclaim my dignity. After that humiliating night at the charity event, I needed space. I couldn't face anyone right away. Every laugh, every glance, every whisper felt like it was aimed at me. I retreated into the quiet of my home, trying to make sense of what had happened. The people I thought were friends suddenly seemed distant. Some avoided me, some whispered when they thought I wasn't listening. The betrayal felt heavier because it came from someone I had trusted completely. I kept replaying Vanessa's smile, the way she had controlled the crowd, the way she had made me the joke of the night. I questioned myself endlessly. Had I said something wrong? Had I misjudged people? For the first time, I felt unsure of my own judgment. The confidence that had always been my shield now felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. Ethan, my husband, noticed my mood immediately. Calm and steady, he didn't push me to talk before I was ready. But when I finally opened up, he listened carefully, his eyes never leaving mine. "I saw what happened," he said quietly. "It wasn't your fault. Someone planned this, and you got caught in it. But we'll get through it together." His words felt like a lifeline. That evening, we sat together in our living room. I confessed how much the betrayal hurt, how it made me question everything about myself. Ethan held my hand and didn't offer empty platitudes. He just reminded me of who I was, of the woman he had always admired, confident, kind, and strong. "This isn't the end of your story," he said. "It's just a chapter. And I'm not going anywhere." Even with Ethan's support, I couldn't shake the feeling of being exposed. Friends who had once made me feel safe were now distant or uncertain. It was painful to see people take sides or avoid me because of someone else's lies. I realized that betrayal didn't just hurt in the moment, it lingered, leaving you questioning trust and loyalty at every turn. I spent the next few days quietly reflecting. I walked through familiar streets, went to my favorite cafe, and tried to reconnect with the life I loved. But every smile from a stranger, every casual greeting from someone I thought I knew, reminded me how fragile social trust could be. It was humbling and terrifying at the same time. By the end of that week, I knew something had to change. I couldn't let this betrayal define me, but I also couldn't ignore it. I felt vulnerable, shaken, and uncertain. Yet, there was a small spark inside me, fueled by Ethan's steady presence, telling me that I could rise above this. I didn't yet know how, but I promised myself I would reclaim my confidence, my dignity, and my life, on my terms. After taking some time to breathe, I realized I couldn't just sit and wonder what happened. I needed answers. Slowly, quietly, I started paying attention to things I had ignored before, conversations, gestures, and patterns of behavior from people I thought were friends. The more I observed, the more I began to see the threads of a plan I hadn't noticed. It became clear that Vanessa hadn't acted alone. She had been careful, patient, and deliberate. She whispered in the right ears, planted doubts at the right moments, and turned people against me without them even realizing it. Friends I had trusted were either manipulated or too afraid to stand by me. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it had been orchestrated to isolate me completely. When I discovered this, a mix of emotions hit me all at once: anger, heartbreak, and disbelief. I couldn't understand how someone could spend so much time plotting against me, especially someone I had considered a friend. My chest ached with frustration, and tears came more easily than I expected. The life I had taken for granted, the warmth of friendship, the joy of being surrounded by people I trusted, felt fragile and easily shattered. Ethan noticed my growing restlessness. He didn't try to push me toward immediate action. Instead, he reminded me to stay calm and think strategically. "Patience is stronger than anger," he said softly. "You don't have to fight now. Let them reveal themselves. We'll find a way to fix this, together." His calm voice helped me breathe, and slowly, I began to see a plan forming in my mind. I started making quiet notes in my head, connecting moments I had dismissed before. Who laughed when Vanessa mentioned something? Who avoided me afterward? It was like putting together a puzzle I hadn't even known existed. Each new detail made my anger burn a little hotter, but it also strengthened my resolve. I wasn't going to let this betrayal define me. By the end of the week, I had a clearer picture of what had happened. Vanessa's manipulations weren't random, they were calculated, precise, and cruel. And yet, knowing this gave me a strange sense of power. I wasn't powerless anymore. I could see the path she had taken, the lies she had spun, and the people she had fooled. I made a promise to myself that night. I wouldn't react in rage. I wouldn't fall into the trap of getting even immediately. Instead, I would watch, wait, and reclaim my dignity silently but completely. Every move Vanessa made from this point on, I would be ready. I would take back what was mine, my confidence, my respect, and my life, on my terms. After weeks of reflection and quiet observation, I decided it was time to step back into the world. I didn't want to rush, didn't want to appear desperate, but I also refused to let Vanessa's actions keep me hidden. I started attending small gatherings and events again, but differently this time, with calm, with purpose, and without the over-the-top energy I used to bring. I moved with grace, letting my presence speak louder than words. People noticed the change in me. I was still Morgan, still warm and approachable, but now there was a quiet strength that hadn't been there before. I no longer needed to impress or overcompensate. I let my actions and words be measured, thoughtful, and deliberate. This gave me a confidence that Vanessa could not touch. At the same events, I began noticing things more carefully. Small comments Vanessa made, little inconsistencies in her stories, the way she tried to subtly twist conversations, all of it became clear to me. Instead of confronting her openly, I used wit and charm to hint at the truth. A question here, a casual remark there, and slowly, the people around us began noticing. They saw her stories didn't always match, that her concerns had hidden motives. I watched quietly as the first cracks began to appear. Friends who had been unsure before now glanced at Vanessa differently, a flicker of doubt in their eyes. I didn't need to attack or shout, I simply let the truth reveal itself through my calm demeanor. Each time Vanessa tried to manipulate or deceive, her words lost weight because people had started seeing patterns. The emotional tension during this period was intense. Every time Vanessa attempted to regain control, I held my composure. I smiled politely, listened attentively, and responded carefully. I never gave her the satisfaction of a reaction, and that was far more powerful than any argument or confrontation. Watching her become frustrated, trying to spin her web while I moved freely and confidently, was strangely satisfying. With each small victory, my sense of control grew. I was no longer the embarrassed, betrayed woman from the charity event. I had taken back my life in subtle, invisible ways. People began to approach me naturally, trusting me again, admiring my poise, and questioning Vanessa's words without even knowing it. This quiet, patient approach to revenge felt unlike anything I had imagined. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was effective. I didn't have to humiliate Vanessa openly, I let her own lies and manipulations crumble quietly while I stood strong, calm, and dignified. And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt the spark of control return to my life. The next big party came faster than I expected. It was another high-profile event, held at a friend's penthouse downtown. The music, the lights, the chatter, everything was familiar, but this time, I felt different. I wasn't just walking into a room to socialize, I was walking in with awareness and purpose. I had learned from the past, and I was ready. Almost immediately, I noticed Vanessa. She smiled at me the way she always did, sweet on the surface but sharp underneath. I knew she had something planned. She tried to corner me in a conversation early on, just like before, leaning close and speaking in that deceptively gentle tone. I played along, nodding and smiling, pretending to be relaxed, but inside, I was alert. Soon, Vanessa tried to twist my words in front of a small group of people. She asked leading questions, trying to get me to say something that could be mocked or misinterpreted. But this time, I didn't stumble. I answered with clarity, with charm, and with just the right touch of humor. I made the group laugh, not at me, but at the awkwardness of the situation. Slowly, the attention shifted. The people around us began noticing that Vanessa's setup wasn't working. Then came the moment that truly turned the tide. Vanessa tried to imply something embarrassing about my past comment at a previous event. I paused, smiled gently, and responded in a way that made her implication look absurd without ever directly attacking her. I phrased it as a light, funny observation, and the crowd laughed, but this time, the laughter was on Vanessa, not me. People exchanged glances, clearly seeing the truth. Vanessa's confident mask slipped for just a moment, and it was enough. The satisfaction of the moment wasn't in shouting or revenge. It was in seeing Vanessa falter while I remained calm, poised, and dignified. I realized that all the humiliation she had tried to inflict before had given me lessons in patience and control. I had turned the attack around not by aggression, but by using tact and observation, letting the truth and my composure speak for themselves. After that night, something shifted in the room. Friends who had been uncertain before now looked at me with admiration. Vanessa tried to regain her composure, but the confidence she had used to manipulate and dominate others was gone. The room saw her differently, and I no longer feared her schemes. By the end of the evening, I felt a quiet thrill of victory. I had won without lowering myself. I had reclaimed not just my dignity, but also the social power she had tried to take from me. That night was a turning point. It wasn't about revenge and anger, it was about proving to myself and everyone around that strength, grace, and calm could triumph over envy and deceit. After the turning point at the last party, I knew the next step had to be decisive. Vanessa had tried to manipulate people for too long, and it was time for the truth to come out. I didn't want to create drama or humiliate her loudly, I just wanted everyone to see clearly what had been happening all along. I began by paying attention to the stories Vanessa had told and the ways she had twisted events. I quietly collected examples in my mind, moments when she had lied, when she had whispered false things to friends, and when she had tried to isolate me. I didn't need proof on paper, I just needed clarity and the right moment to let it unfold naturally. That moment came at another gathering, a mixed group of old friends and acquaintances. Vanessa tried, as usual, to insert herself into conversations and shift attention. I joined a group, calm and collected, listening at first, then casually mentioning things that subtly revealed inconsistencies in her stories. I did it lightly, almost as if I were talking about unrelated events, but the pieces fell into place for everyone listening. People began noticing. Questions were asked. Friends exchanged glances. Slowly, the whispers that had always surrounded me started shifting direction. Instead of doubting me, people began questioning Vanessa's words. Those who had been unsure before now had reason to see the truth. The lies, the manipulations, the subtle betrayals, everything became visible without me saying a single harsh word. Vanessa's expression changed as she realized what was happening. The confidence she had used to control the room faltered. I could see her panic rise, the careful mask slipping just enough for others to notice. It was satisfying, not because I wanted revenge, but because justice was happening quietly, naturally, and fairly. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice or make accusations. I simply stood there, calm and composed, letting my quiet strength speak louder than any words could. The shift in the room was palpable. People started approaching me, showing support and admiration. Conversations that had once excluded me now included me fully, and the power dynamics had completely changed. By the end of the evening, it was clear that Vanessa's manipulations had been exposed. She tried to recover, but it was too late. I had reclaimed my place not through anger or force, but through patience, observation, and integrity. My dignity remained intact, and everyone could see the truth for themselves. That night, I felt a deep sense of relief and accomplishment. The betrayal that had hurt me so much had been answered not with rash revenge, but with quiet, strategic action. I had taken control, restored my reputation, and learned that strength often comes in silence, calm, and careful timing. The lesson was clear: power and respect cannot be forced, they must be earned, and they shine brightest when matched with patience and integrity. After everything that had happened, I felt like a new person. Slowly, I began stepping back into my life, attending events and gatherings, but this time I did it on my own terms. I no longer felt the need to impress anyone, to eat excessively, or to prove myself through laughter and charm. I showed up as Morgan, calm, confident, and in control. With each event I attended, my confidence grew. I no longer allowed small whispers or hidden envy to affect me. I spoke when I wanted to, laughed when I felt like it, and enjoyed myself without worrying about what others thought. People began to notice the change. Friends who had once been distant now treated me with respect. The social games that had caused me so much stress before no longer had power over me. I also learned to be careful with whom I trusted. I didn't close myself off completely, but I became wiser in choosing the people I let close to me. Not everyone deserved a place in my inner circle, and I no longer gave that privilege lightly. This selective trust made my friendship stronger and more meaningful, and I realized that my worth wasn't tied to how many people liked me or attended the same parties. Through it all, Ethan remained my anchor. One evening, as we returned home from a small dinner party, I felt a wave of gratitude for him. I told him quietly, "I don't know what I would have done without you." He smiled, holding my hand, and said, "You didn't need me to fight your battles. I just made sure you had the space to see your own strength." In that moment, I realized how much his steady presence had supported me, how his patience and understanding had allowed me to reclaim my dignity without losing myself. Rebuilding my life wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about self-respect, about choosing who and what mattered, and about moving forward with dignity. I focused on my passions, my relationships, and my own happiness instead of trying to prove anything to anyone. Every day, I felt lighter and freer, no longer burdened by the games and jealousy of others. By the time months passed, I understood that my identity was my own. I was no longer defined by my love for food at parties, by my social status, or by the opinions of others. I was defined by my choices, my strength, and my ability to rise above betrayal. Morgan Davis had returned, but stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever. I smiled, thinking about the journey I had been through. The humiliation, the lies, the careful planning of others, none of it could touch me anymore. I had reclaimed my life, my confidence, and my dignity. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace with who I was. Looking back, I realized how much I had learned from everything that happened. Betrayal had been painful, humbling, and eye-opening, but it had also taught me lessons I might never have understood otherwise. I learned that not everyone who smiles at you has your best interests at heart, and that trust, while precious, must be given carefully. I also understood the value of patience. My first instinct had been anger, the desire to lash out or get even immediately. But by waiting, observing, and planning quietly, I discovered a strength I hadn't known I possessed. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is most powerful when it is subtle, controlled, and dignified. Watching the truth reveal itself, letting my composure do the work, felt far more satisfying than any confrontation could have. Through it all, I realized that true strength comes from choosing yourself. It comes from protecting your dignity, holding on to your values, and refusing to let the actions of others define who you are. Morgan Davis had faced humiliation, manipulation, and envy, but in the end, I had walked away with more than I had started with: confidence, clarity, and control over my own life. I thought often about Vanessa and what had driven her actions. I didn't hate her, and I didn't need to punish her. The satisfaction came naturally from seeing her schemes fail and from feeling the quiet power of standing strong without compromise. I learned that letting go of anger doesn't mean weakness, it means understanding that your own peace is more important than proving a point. Ethan's support had been a cornerstone of my recovery. I realized that having someone patient, steady, and understanding by your side can make all the difference, not because they fight your battles, but because they give you the space to fight your own. That support, combined with my own determination, made me feel unstoppable in ways I had never imagined. Now, life feels lighter. I attend gatherings, enjoy conversations, and live freely without fear of judgment or betrayal. I smile because I choose joy, not because I need approval. I laugh because it comes from the heart, not because I'm performing for others. My focus is on myself, my growth, and the people who truly matter in my life. The journey wasn't easy, and it wasn't without pain. But it showed me that emotional strength isn't about fighting loudly or seeking revenge. It's about patience, strategy, dignity, and the courage to choose yourself above everything else. I can finally say I am free, free from the weight of betrayal, free from the fear of judgment, and free to live my life with confidence and peace. The future feels open, full of possibilities, and calm. I know now that no one can take my dignity from me, and that the strongest victories are those won quietly, with wisdom, and with your head held high.